Good morning, everyone, and welcome to our final session on financial aid, need-based aid. Welcome for those folks that are here. Yay. If you are watching at home, we wish you could be here, but we know sometimes you can't, and that's okay. Okay, so like I said, final presentation. And in our financial aid series, we do it every year at this time. The important thing to know is that financing is part of the search strategy. Yes, this is the fourth time we've said it. We say it at the beginning of every single session. And that is because you don't wait until after you have your college decisions. You have to think about cost as you apply. Once again, based on a family's unique financial situation and based on a learner's unique academic background. Those two things together help us with the strategy. I have to say this over and over and over again. The best financial aid comes from the college itself. There's no magic. Well, there's almost no magic. There's a few interesting scholarships, but for the most part, you're going to get the best money from the college. You're going to get the best money by handling the search well. This is the last session in a four-part series. We talked about the FAFSA. We gave a general information, talked a lot about California in that information session. We had a session on loans and debt. We had a session on merit scholarships, discounting all those things that come from what the learner has done. And all of those are, or I still think I need to upload one of them to the YouTube page. And this is our last one. This is one where we're looking at it through the lens of income. And that's today, our final session. Now, I'm going to say it again. I keep saying it. Financing college requires a strategy. And I'll send it on over to Jenna.
So good morning, everybody. My name is Jenna Clement, and I'm an academic counselor at iLEAD. If your learner's last name is between H and O, then I am their counselor. So it's nice to meet you all. We're going to talk about some basic terms to understand when a college is calculating need-based aid. They might use one of two things, either an institutional methodology or a federal methodology. Typically, when we're talking about institutional methodology, we are referring to the CSS profile. And we're talking about federal methodology, that is the FAFSA. Basically, the CSS and the FAFSA, if you haven't been to our previous presentations, those are two different, essentially, applications for financial aid. And what those applications do is help the college determine what we call affordability, which is what they think you can afford. Now, you might not agree, but that is what they use to determine what they think you can afford yearly in basically cost for college. Affordability is calculated using either the FAFSA or the CSS profile. The FAFSA is what the government uses to determine federal aid. And then some colleges, I would say most colleges use that FAFSA, but a couple of them will use the CSS profile. And again, the FAFSA is the federal methodology. The CSS profile is the institutional methodology, AKA the school's way of figuring out their own sort of calculation. So how is that aid calculated? Within those two applications, they're going to ask you a lot of personal financial information. They are different from one another and they calculate them slightly different. What you see on your screen is a very simplified version. Obviously, if we went into the details of it, it would take a long time. And also, Laura and I, we are not accountants. We're not, financial professionals. We do have a lot of information to give you. But in general, this is kind of what it looks like. So the FAFSA is going to ask for the parent's income. They're also going to ask for the parent's assets. The FAFSA calculates based on one household's income, and we'll get into that a little bit further, but that would be important if you have parents that are separated or divorced, if there's any kind of split custody situation. The FAFSA only looks at one household's financial information. They do ask you what the value of your small business or farm is as well. The difference with the CSS profile, they still ask for income, they still ask for assets, and they still ask for the value of a small business or farm. However, they take into consideration income from both households if the family is split, divorced, or separated. And they also ask you about home equity as well. So to get in a little bit further, when it comes to parents who are divorced, whose income do I use? So on the FAFSA, like we said, they only use one household's information. What they are asking is the family that provides more support for the child that is applying for financial aid. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that the child is there 50% or more of the time. It also doesn't necessarily mean the family that makes more money. It's just the parent that you can say is the one that provides more for that student. That's clothing, food, tuition, things like that, whatever you can think of. Basically, they're going to ask for one household. And if that parent is remarried, they are also taking into consideration the step parent's income as well, regardless if that step parent has like official adopted or custody or anything like that. If the parent is remarried, the step parent's income does calculate into that household. Now, the CSS profile, it's both households' income, regardless of custody, regardless of how much you make. And if either parent is remarried, that step parent's income does count as well for both households. Okay, so the colleges are using the FAFSA or the CSF to determine what a family's need is. Now, all of us would say we need money, right? But the colleges have an actual calculation that they determine what your need is. So let's take a look at that. To calculate a student's need, first, you have to start with the cost of attendance. So everything that is the cost of attendance is basically what you would have to pay to go to college. That's going to include tuition. It's also going to include room and board and miscellaneous. The miscellaneous could be books, they could be fees, they could be materials. So all of that added together is what we consider the cost of attendance to go to school, and we calculate that on a yearly or an annual basis. What the need is the cost of attendance, what it's going to cost to go to that school, minus the affordability, which is what the colleges have determined you can afford to pay on an annual basis. And it's just a simple subtraction. Cost of attendance minus what they think you can pay. If there's any gap, that is considered need. So for example, if tuition at a school is $50,000 per year, and to live there, room and board, to eat there, it's going to cost another $10,000, then the cost of attendance is $60,000 per year. Let's say you plugged in all your numbers to the FAFSA CSF and the college spit out saying, we believe you can afford $10,000 per year out of pocket. Now that's not loans, that's not scholarships. That's just saying that is going to be, what we think you can pay essentially in cash. How they're going to calculate what your need is they're going to take the cost of attendance, $60,000 a year, minus the $10,000, what they think you can afford, and there's a gap. That gap is $50,000. That's what they consider to be your need. Essentially, they're saying, we know that you need this money. How are you going to get it? Now, each college is going to determine how you're going to get it a little bit differently, but that's kind of what we're talking about when we're talking about need-based aid, is that gap.
And I'm going to jump in from here. Thank you, Jenna. I am going to explain how we kind of figure this all out. So let me dive right in. This goes back to our comment about the best need-based aid is from the college. And for this presentation, we're looking at families that are typically low to middle income. That middle income is kind of a term that no one can really decide what it means. People often think that they're not going to get any aid unless they are low income. That is simply not true. I know some schools will go clear up to a family income of $200,000, maybe even a little bit above, simply because the cost of college is expensive. And it really depends on the college. So the strategy for families with low or middle income, we have a number of different ways that college considers it. There are some colleges, and we're going to look at those, that fill 100% of that need. So if you remember from the slide before, we looked at the cost of attendance minus what the college feels you can pay, what's left is need. There are a set of colleges that guarantee to fill the demonstrated need as per their calculation. And I want to put that comment about it is according to their calculation. There's also colleges that will fill a high percentage of need. So these 100%, there's about 70 with that 100%, but there's also a lot that will look and fill a good percentage of that need. And one of the things that you can also do is combine a need-based aid with merit-based aid. So there's a number of ways to use this strategy to pay for college. And that's what this presentation is about today. So let's first look at a list of colleges that fill need with no loans. Now, when I say no loans, people get all excited. We don't have to take out any money. When I say no loans, that first year, we're looking at a difference of about $3,500. That's subsidized loan. If you go back to 2 presentations ago, we talked about different types of loans. These are colleges that don't take that subsidized loan into consideration when they build their package. This changes. I notice that more and more of the colleges that guarantee to fill need, a lot of them are going to no loans, either for all, which is what you're seeing here, no loans, that extra 3,500, 45, 55, depending upon the year of school. And then we also have some loans. So there are colleges that will say, we will do it without loans for students under a certain income level, and we'll add loans for students over a certain income level. And this, like I said, changes from year to year. And so you really do have to take a look at the individual college at the specific year that you or your learner, depending on who you are, is applying. But you can see these fill with some loans for some people and no loans for others. And then we have schools that fill need and they include the loan amount. And once again, that first year is a $3,500 extra. They are expecting you to put a little bit more what they call skin in the game by taking out the small student loan. This is not the parent loan. This is the student loan. And if you remember, that's a 55, 65, 75, $100 a year loan, not the parent loan, student loan that they're allowing. And we can see that there is a lot of schools here that fill need. It's about 70 schools. Unfortunately, those schools are a little bit harder to get into. And when we look at the very, very, very one group of them, we're way high on the selectivity list. Stanford, Harvard, Duke, Pomona, that's Pomona College, not Cal Poly Pomona. And then USC, to give you an idea that these are schools you can't really count on. But we do have colleges that a lot of people don't think about that actually do have a little bit less of a crazy admission rate. We're looking at, this is still selective. Let's make that really, really clear. But some of them just aren't as severe as the ones that we saw before. My own son went to Reed College. It was about a 33, 34% at the time. It's only gone to 31% over, what, about 8, 9 years. So it stayed pretty steady. Rochester, almost a 40% admission rate. So not all of them are crazy hard, but they are selective. We have someone's admitted to Occidental every year. We actually have one person who I think is there now. He was doing a gap year. He should be there now. We've had students accepted to Oberlin, Occidental, Reed, Rochester, off the top of my head, just in the last 2 years. And so these are absolutely doable colleges, and there's opportunity there. Okay, now one of the things that's kind of hidden, we had these colleges that we just looked at a moment ago, and they guarantee to meet full need. They basically state that's their philosophy. But there are colleges that will also meet need for a high percentage. And so they may not be those colleges that are on the list to guarantee it, but you might be surprised at the financial aid package that comes from the college, especially if you are a high achieving student. And a lot of these colleges are colleges that may not be on your radar that are fantastic colleges. And it's kind of interesting. There's a group of colleges called the Colleges That Change Lives. I talk about it a lot. I have 2 kids and both of them went to a college that changes lives. And on this list, there is Worcester, Lawrence, Guilford, Kalamazoo, St. Olaf, Rhodes, Wabash, and Whitman. All of those are on the list. So not only do they change lives, they make it affordable. Whitman was an interesting one. I think I mentioned my son periodically. He got in at the time. They did not guarantee any need. And they told me on the phone when I talked to them, yeah, we're filling all of his need. They just decided to. And so although it's not on that list, don't be afraid to apply to colleges that don't guarantee that need, you may be surprised at the package that comes out. Okay, so these colleges that we just looked at, I also want to point out their admission rate is sometimes a lot better. So if you are looking at a college that may give a lot of need, and we're going to jump into that in another slide or two, how to look for that. Look at the acceptance rates here. So we've got Worcester, Kalamazoo, and Rhodes, and you can see that these are all above 50%. So if you or your child, talking to the whole group here, want to kind of be in that group that may have a high percentage of need met, choose colleges where you are in the top 25% of students. This is true with need-based aid. This is true with scholarships. I mean, if you are looking to maximize the financial aid, you want to look for colleges where you or your child is in the upper percentages, because they're going to dangle that carrot for you. They're going to dangle financial aid for you, whether it's need-based aid, whether it's scholarship. So College of Worcester, Kalamazoo, Rhodes College, all above 50%. And if you are in the top group, you may find that they've met 100% of need. So it doesn't have to be only those brand name colleges. Okay, switching back over to Jenna. Take it away.
So in order to determine what your student might be getting in aid, you don't have to apply to the school and cross your fingers and just hope that you get something. There's actually some tools that you can utilize before ever applying to the college to get a general idea of what they are going to provide you in need-based aid before ever applying. We highly recommend you utilize these tools. Colleges do have application fees. And so instead of just applying to a bunch and hoping for the best, you can actually sort of strategize, like we said, ahead of time by plugging in some numbers, getting a general idea, and figuring out if you can afford it before even applying. So those two tools that we're going to talk about are the net price calculator and the common data set. So the net price calculator, this is something that every college in the United States is required to have available. Families can get an estimate cost based on some of their financial information. It will always include need-based aid, but it sometimes will also include merit-based aid. If you've gone to some of our previous presentations, need is based on the income. Merit is based on a student's performance. It might be their GPA or their test scores. So some net price calculators will actually give an idea for both. And it also gives a glimpse of the formula that college is going to use to determine your potential aid. Net price calculators, they have lots of questions, and each schools can be slightly different. You can see some examples here. So we have a sample of Reed, Amherst, and Bates. And if you kind of look at the different things that they ask, there's getting started, which is general information, dependency status, parent household information, parent income information, parent assets. They ask about student finances, if a student has any money, or 529 or things like that. They sometimes have additional questions, like you can see in Reed. They have another section that says Reed-based questions. They're just extra questions that Reed asks. But something I kind of want to direct your attention to is that, like next to the parent assets, for example, under Reed, there's a number 6. That means they have 6 parent asset questions. But in Amherst, they have 8 parent asset questions, and Bates has 7. So those questions could be different based on each school. And then these 3 are samples of colleges that aren't going to give you an example of merit-based aid ahead of time, because they don't ask anything about student GPA or test scores. So here's some of those types of questions that they might ask under, for example, that parent asset section. They'll ask you if you own a home, and if you say yes, then it'll expand and more questions will open up. If you say no, it'll have different questions to answer. So for example, if you do own a home, then it's going to jump over to the right side of the slide, where it's going to ask, what is the value of the home? How much did the parents owe on the home? What was the purchase price? What year did they purchase? And then it'll jump back into some of the other questions, like on investments, if they have a business, if they have a farm. So they'll adjust based on what your answers are. Again, another example of different colleges asking different things. For example, these two colleges both ask if there was any medical or dental expenses not covered by insurance. But then one college is also going to ask if you've paid any private K through 12 tuition during the last few years. Those previous examples all kind of looked the same, but the net price calculator isn't just one tool. Every college has their own, and every college's could look different. So this is an example of what the UC net price calculator looks like. There is one net price calculator for all the UCs. However, you can kind of see at the top where it says selected campus. It's a drop down, and you can decide which campus you're trying to figure out for, but same types of question: income, taxes, assets, that kind of thing. But just know that they all look a little bit different, ask slightly different questions. Some are going to include merit in that calculation. So you can see for these examples, they are going to further ask about a student's GPA. They're going to ask about test scores. That might be AP or IB test scores. It might be SAT or ACT test scores. Did they take the PSAT in junior year and qualify as a national merit semi-finalist or finalist? So those are the types of questions that these net price calculators are going to ask, and then they're going to include merit-based aid in their, sample. When you're trying to find these net price calculators, the best way is just to Google name of school plus net price calculator. However, you want to make sure that you're going to a reliable source. So we just have a sample here where you can see when we Googled Emerson's net price calculator, the real one is the one that's from emerson.edu. The second one, collegeraptor.com. We would not suggest you go there. College Raptor is not affiliated with Emerson. The net price calculator is affiliated with the College Board. The College Board is that same company that does the SAT. They do the AP testing. So if you see College Board in the name, it is likely the real one. But just, use your intuition when looking at what the actual net price calculator is that you want to click on and give that potential financial information to.
I'm back again. Sorry, I clicked my mouse a little too soon and it jumped forward. I am going to lead you into the common data set, and we're getting messy now. And I don't expect anyone to memorize this. This is what I would use if you came into my Zoom office and we sat down and looked at individual colleges. So I want to kind of give you a taste of what's out there. If you want to play with these data sets and things like that, they're lots of fun if you're me and some other people. But if this seems a little overwhelming, don't worry. If I'm giving you too much information, just come and make an appointment with me. We'll open up these things ourselves, and I will walk you through a little more in depth than what we're going to do in this session. So I'm going to start talking about the common data set. And the common data set is basically a big, huge document of data that allows people, parents, students, counselors, everyone, to compare apples to apples between colleges. The questions are all the same. The answers, of course, are different relative to the college. And what's really nice is that this gives you a really in-depth view of everything from finances, which we're talking about today, but also admissions and just all kinds of stuff, who's attending. And it's just a huge number of questions. So you can really dump in here, you can explore, and you can find out a lot of things that are in depth about the college. So let's take a look at one. This is only the financial section. This is section H. Yes, I have it memorized. In fact, this is section H2. That's how much I have it memorized. There are many sections. And so one of the things that I do when I work with a student is I open up this common data set and I take a look at what's going on financially. And you will see in a bit, I've actually done some calculations for you. But you can see that we're looking at Colorado College right now, which is a small liberal arts college, which has a block schedule, just throwing that out there in Colorado, of course. And they are one of the colleges that meets 100% of need with loans. So let's take a look at that. You can see that we have 537 first-year students, and only 264 applied for need-based aid. That's really interesting and tells you something about the college and the students who are attending. They have given need-based aid to 239 of their students. I think that's less than half. And notice these were not folks that applied. So this automatically tells you something about the student body. But we also can see, if you jump down to I, that those students who were determined to have any kind of need had their need met 100% of after the college's calculations. You can see the average financial aid package for those 239 students, that the first year students, was $60,000 before loans. So $60,000, actually, let me go back, with loans. That's the one with subsidized loans. So $60,000, you can see that the average without loans was 56, but this one did include loans. So when I say loans, I'm only talking about, in this case, about $3,500 of loans, $3,574. So when we see that there is a college that includes loans, we're not talking a huge loan, we're talking a small amount. They are expecting the student to pay that amount to get what they call skin in the game. I hate that term, but that's what they use. So you can see that we've got loans, work study, Colorado College, though, I mean, $60,000 off the price. This was 2 years ago. That's a pretty good discount on average for students with need. Now, I want to show you also kind of the difference between two colleges. Once again, this is related to philosophy of where the money goes. Colorado College versus Pomona College. So Pomona College, small liberal arts college here in Claremont, California, very, very selective. I think we had a 7% selectivity rate a couple of slides ago. Colorado College, a little less selective, but still pretty selective. But I want to point out this section here, which is looking at students that have either no need or who are athletes. And you will notice that Colorado College has 11 first year or 33 total athletes, and they have given a lot of money on average to those athletes. They also have given, I don't know, $6,400 doesn't really end the pain, but they are willing to give a little bit of money to students that have no need whatsoever. So those 34 students that you see in N are students that did not qualify for any need-based aid. This particular college did give a lot of money. You'll find that this chart is on all the colleges, and you'll find that amount varies greatly. Pomona, you notice it's all zeros, with exception of one student who got $5,000. We don't know why that was a fluke thing, but Pomona's philosophy is the only people that they give any kind of money to, scholarships, need-based aid, are people that need it. And so this is part of what we're talking about when we say schools do things differently. These schools both provide 100% need-based aid, but who they also give money to is different. And so this is one of the reasons to open up those common data sets and really look at the college to see what they value. And if you're an athlete, Colorado College is a good place for you, apparently. Pomona also has athletes, but they give no money for it. Does help with admissions, by the way. Okay. So once again, we're looking at this. We have average need-based loan. That's the subsidized loan over at Colorado College. It's a little different than the number we saw before. This is loans, and above we saw loans and work studies. So students were both working and getting a loan. Pomona, a no loan college. No loans, they're not counting those. The subsidized loan is incorporated into the need-based aid. Okay, so what I want to do is I want to show you some common data sets so that if you decide to jump in, you kind of know what you're looking at. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to hit the escape button, take you back to my browser to show you 3 different kinds. We have UCLA, USC, and Gordon College, and I've opened them up. So I want to start with UCLA's common data set. And I opened this up not to drag you through and show you all the details, but I want to show you how to navigate it. So all financial aid information is in section H. And yes, I have that memorized because that's how often I go to the financial aid section. So I'm just going to show you what it looks like here. This is just a PDF. And if I hit H2, and you'll have to scroll, you'll see, looks like we don't have that information for this year. We'd have to go to an earlier common data set, and you would see the numbers here. So you can see that this is just a PDF. It's a scrolling situation. And they look different. This is USC right here. And in this particular case, it's the web page. And they have it divided up. So there's our H section, and it's going to just scroll me down. Same exact look. Totally different way of finding it. And this confuses people, which is why I'm showing you right now. So you could see that we have 3,400 and 2,100 applied for aid and 1,300 received need-based aid. USC guarantees 100% need-based aid. What's kind of fun about USC is they also provide scholarships. So this is one of those schools that guarantees to meet the need of students that have it, but they also kind of dangle that carrot and try to get students away from some of those other colleges through scholarships. So one of those types of schools, this is how you kind of analyze the situation. And then I wanted to show you one that is using an Excel spreadsheet because it's really confusing. They're allowed to use anything. I've also seen them in Word documents. And so this one you'll see at the bottom, if you wanted to explore, that your H section is over here. And once again, it looks exactly the same. It's just in this particular time, it's on a spreadsheet. So I'm bringing you in here to show you how to find different ones. Look at that. 69.6%, 70% of students have 100% of their need met. That's not a lot of students, but it's, yeah. Or they meet 60, yeah. This is a percentage of need that was met. You can see the financial aid package is a lot lower. Not all schools are friendly, but I needed a spreadsheet. So I grabbed a spreadsheet of a random school that we have a couple students at. Okay, let me jump back in. Let me go back to my slideshow. There we go. And gonna just recap. This is what we talked about from the very beginning. There are 4 ways to pay for college: merit, need, cash, loans. We have a video on each one of these. This was the need video, or it will be a video. This was the need discussion. You need that strategy. Don't be one of those students that comes to me at the end of your senior year and asks how you're going to get a scholarship to pay for the school, your dream school that you just got into, that you just found out was $90,000. Don't be that student. I have them every year. Come to me before you search, and we'll make a list of affordable colleges. Okay, we have more sessions coming up. We have a holistic admission. We're changing gears. This is a fun one. Holistic admission, we're going to do a case study. It's going to be exciting. We're going to vote. We're going to be the admission staff. We're going to do that case study again, specifically looking at the University of California, things that they look at. And then we're going to look at other factors that, rigor, honors, AP, concurrent enrollment, how you can go ahead and make sure that you are doing all the things you need to do to have your best options, your best selection. And we just filled you with a lot of information. We don't expect you to go it alone. I just put mine up here because financial aid, I do a lot of that in-depth financial aid stuff. And you are welcome to come and talk to me. Like we'll have a talk. I'll keep everything confidential. You're welcome to share financial information or not, whatever works for you. And so this is the end of our presentation. For those at home, thank you so much for showing up. And we will be back with another video for you. For those who are here, hang on for a second. We are going to do our Q&A, and I'm going to stop our recording. So bye at home.